Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender, published by GMT Games, designed by Salvatore Vasta. This is the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. I'm Dren608. We're about to begin on the September 1942 turn. The weather is fair for all concerned, except that I did not move that back in July, so I'm going to correct that. As a side note to anyone that's been following these videos for a while, last turn, August 1942, was the 36th turn. So the game is going to be 71 turns long based on when it's going to end in July 45. So we're officially in the second half of the game. No one's going to declare war. Economy, I will show you the national tracks here real quick. Adjust my mic there. And I need to turn on my timer before I do anything else, so I don't go over time for this segment. As you can see, even though the Russians lost a factory at Leningrad, they still, with their Lend-Lease and their Urals factories, are able to maintain 26 production points, which is very good. Bad thing for the Russians, they are at 15 will, so they are on the brink, and they have to last 4 more turns, with at least 1 willpower left at the end of December 42 German turn. So it's going to be tight. This is the closest I've really come to knocking the Russians out. That 11 points that the Germans got last turn was huge. 11 will points they got. Strategic warfare, the Russians are at +2. Germans are at +1. The Russians do have a partisans marker, but they're not going to use it for strategic warfare, because if the Germans capture a city, they feel like they'll probably have to use it to try and capture it back. So they're going to keep it. So we roll the dice. Germans roll 2 + 1 is a 3. Not good. Russians roll 5 + 2 is a 7. 3 to a 7 is the Germans lose a factory. Go to the national tracks. German loss marker goes up by 1. Excuse me here. I'm going to clear my throat. Where that came from. Been working outside all day, so probably stuff I shouldn't be breathing, I was breathing. On to the west. Germans are +3. UK is +2 because of their US being in the war. The British do have a ultra marker. It seems how everybody's trying to pound the German economy into the dirt. They're going to go ahead and use their ultra while there's no opposition from the Germans. So the German die roll will be halved. Oh boy, 6 + 3 is a 9. Halves down to a 4.5, rounds up to a 5. And the UK roll, 5 + 2 is a 7. A 7 to a 5, or a 5 I should say to a 7, is a diamond. So the Germans' factory loss marker goes back down 1, and so does the British. Remember, hey, look, I'm remembering to do the British. I've missed it the last few times that I've actually been able to take back a factory. And then we have to roll for the ultra marker. 3 turns. Not too bad. 1, 2, 3. So I get it back in December. They get the other one back in January, so only be a turn or so that they won't be able to affect the strategic warfare. And let's see if we can close the faction thing right now. Strategic movement, the Axis does have one. They'll go get the marker off of here. They're going to put it on the 7th garrison. I know it's supposed to go on my faction card and then come back off, but that just seems wasteful. And then they're going to move it over here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to put it in the hex in front of Kursk. Romanians scare me. Maybe the Russians will break through there or something. I'm not sure where I'm going to end up with all of my moves with my allies and stuff. So I want to try and make sure that I have sort of this gap covered. The West does not have one. The Soviets do have one. I realized last turn I probably should have just built this in a different place. So I'm going to strategically move. Every time I pop up the faction card, it's always the top of the unit I want to put something on. The guy that's in Saratov, he is going to move down to this swamp, 3555. to try and block access to Novorossiysk, whatever. I'm worried about the Germans blowing up the 27th and then just like running down here and killing the 13th and then taking the city and doing terrible, horrible things like that. So I'm going to try and block him there. I think I have him pretty well blocked off, movement point-wise, from getting to any of these other Saratov, Akistran, or Guanzi. So I think the big thing's going to be cities up here in the north. Axis operations phase. Precisely what we're going to do. We need to see if we can get a 2-for-1 split somewhere. So we're going to start with the guy 2749 is going to attack Reserve because he's just barely in range. I'm at a net -2, -4 for sorties, +2 for German. Russians are at -4 for their sorties, and the Germans need a 5 or 6 to even have a chance. They got a 5. So the Russians need to roll a 6 to not give up a 2-for-1. And they rolled a 5. Not quite good enough. So the Russians take 2, and the Germans take 1. That's kind of good. All right. We're going to do the one in Veliluki. It's going to attack Vologoya. Same thing. Need a 5 or 6 to make a difference. I got a 5, so the Russians need, again, to roll a 6. I rolled a 2. So I got a 2-for-1 here. Wow, that's kind of interesting. Do I go and try and get really lucky? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I could try to get really lucky here. I think I'm going to try and get really lucky. The guy in 2749 is going to attack Voreznov, the second heir. I'm at -3. I need a 6 to possibly get a 2-for-1. I got my 6. The Russians have to roll I think a 6 to avoid it. And they rolled a 6, so their German Air Force. Enough of that. I could move the Rostov Air all the way up to Tula and take a pot shot at getting the guy behind Moscow, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and just hit this guy for 1 sortie from Rostov, and then I have an airplane available for attacks around Rostov, and I have an airplane available for attacks up here in the north. So we'll see if this works out well for me. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and start in the north and see if we get away with this. Or do we just want to start in the south? Start in the south and see if we can kill units? Yeah, let's start in the south and see if we can kill units. Activate the 8th. Where's my national tracks? I need to take German points off here. I'm going to be moving units. So, 1 to 2955 to get away from zones of control, and then 3055 to 3056, and attack the 16th. So that's a total of 5, so I have 3 left. He starts off at 0. I start off at +2. We do have to go to combat commitment. German logic says it's not worth the tanks marker here. I'm going to need it when I try to take cities. So, no, I'm not going to waste a tanks marker here. I could throw in an airplane at this point, but I think I want to use the airplane to try and break across the river, Don. So I'm just going to take my +2. The Russians, by the same token, only have 3 tanks markers. They want to save 1 for, at least for Rezev, probably 1 for the city Vol something way up north, east of Leningrad. So they only have 1 to waste, and again, I think I want to save it for a bigger attack. Let's just not do anything. So that's the logic behind why you don't see me playing tanks markers immediately. Germans roll. A 6? Did they roll a 6? They rolled a 6. 6 plus 2. That's an 8. Good God. And the Russians roll a 5. Well, at least they didn't get flipped. 8 to a 5 is just a DR, so they're okay with a DR. They don't mind retreating. They just don't want to be flipped and then end up dying. I only have 3 movement points left, and I really want to be in 3057 for defense purposes, possibly. So I'm going to go there first and then attack this guy again with +2 to 0. Let's see what we roll. I rolled a 3 this time. +2 is 5. And he rolled a 2. So he's retreated. He will go to 3258. That will prevent the 5th from being isolated. He'll be able to cut me off maybe and not give me retreat routes, but at least I won't be isolated. He won't get an extra +2. And the German 8th, seeing that, is going to go ahead and move into 3150. He's going to go ahead and take the hex. And that leaves me at 0 movement points. So on to the next guy. We're going to try and push up the 2nd Panzer. Is going to attack the 27th. Let's unhighlight this guy. So that would cost me 3 movement points, which would leave me 7. And I need to take off 2 production points to activate that guy. So pound 25. Germans start off at +2 for German, +2 for armor, -1 for the river. What do we do with the Russians? Do we throw a tanks marker here? Try and stuff up the attack on the Don? We go to commitment. The Germans could commit their airplane here, which would be bad for the Russians, because it'd be +5 then. So I think the Russian logic says they have to throw in a tanks marker, and the Germans would have committed and done the same. This is the place where they try and bust a hole kind of thing. So they use their airplane. Stop that. So they go up an extra +2 for the airplane, and the Russians with a tanks marker get +2 as well. So there is that. So the Germans at +5 roll a 3. +5 is an 8. Bad. And the Russians roll a 6. +2 is an 8. So 8 to 8 is a diamond. So the Russians at least make them spend some more production points, or movement points. The Germans will attack again because they really want to get across the Don to try and surround some units like the 5th and stuff. It's not going well here. But they're committed to going across the Don, so they should be down to 4. I can't count. Now they are +3 to a 0. And the Russians really want to save, just so you can see, Rezev here, where the 12th Army is, and what is that called? Volkov. Those are 2 cities that could possibly be assaulted and bad things happen to me because I don't have aircraft. So I really need to save armor to try and protect them. So I'm going to have to let this one go at +3 to 0. And the Germans roll a 6. +3 is a 9. And they rolled a 6. A 9 to a 6 is a DR. So the Russians will retreat to 3456. The Germans will take the hex. And they're just going to keep pursuing this guy to try and get a will point out of him, I think. That's the best I can do right here. So away we go. We attack again. That's 2 movement points, and now I'm +4 to 0. And the Russians are resigned to possibly losing this unit, so they're going to let it go. 3 + 4 is a 7, and they rolled a 1. 7 to a 1 is a DD. So he's flipped, and then he has to retreat. He's going to retreat to 3457, I guess. Germans will go ahead and take the hex and then attack him one last time. He's now at -2. I'm at +4. Maybe I'll get lucky and kill him off. 5 + 4 is a 9 to a 2. I think that does it. Yeah, 9 to a 2 is a DD. So the Russians did lose the infantry, but kept the armor from doing a whole lot. I mean, it had to spend all of its movement points just to kill that one infantry, which is good for the Russians. Bad that they lost a national will out of it. But if you're going to lose a national will, it's nice to use up an armor, all the movement points on an armor unit. Keeps them doing nasty things to you. The Germans could take that hex. I don't see a point to it. They're in a good hex where they're at. So they kind of block any access to the Rostov, any kind of end runs or anything. So I think I'm just going to stay there. I'm going to activate the 18th here. National tracks, got to take a point off. There we go. The 18th is going to go 1, 2, 3 to 3357. Attack the 5th Army. So that's 5 movement points, so I have 3 left. And the reason why I'm doing this is because although he's not isolated, DRs will flip him, so I'm hoping to ultimately with 2 attacks to kill him, and therefore get a will point out of it, and that's probably the best I'm going to get here in the south. So let's see if I can pull it off. 4 plus 2 is a 6, and the Russians roll a 2. 6 to a 2 is a DR, so he is flipped. Whoops, wrong guy. You know, he shouldn't be activated. I don't know why I keep activating the defenders. I'm supposed to make them pink, like that. There, now he's flipped. And then I'll use 2 of my last movement points, of my last 3. I'm still at +2, but he's now at -2, so hopefully I can get him here. 4 plus 2 is a 6. The best he can roll on a 6, just refresher, the best he can roll at -2 is a 4, which means you would at least be having to retreat. So he will be put on the faction card eliminated box, and I get another National Will. So I got 2 National Will out of it. Slowly but surely chipping away. I got to try and kill units at this point, because when you get bad weather, it's kind of hard to kill Russian units there. I'm going to go ahead and move to 3358 with my last movement point, rather than bother to take the hex, because it'd be an enemy zone of control and I could move there anyway. But this kind of brackets the 16th Army, threatens, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, an end run around to a Stalingrad or something to try and isolate it, maybe a long end run towards Granzi with the armor or the infantry. So the Russians have to kind of do something to defend that run. They're low enough on will points that 2 will points here could make a huge difference. So they're going to have to pay attention to that and possibly draw some strength away from somewhere else. I don't know what to do with the remaining. He's in the freaking way. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 that I've used, and make sure that I've got my national tracks right. Start at 28, I'm at 24, so I'm okay. We're going to go up here to the north. Frozen north here. I'm not at kind of a quandary. I could go at him with the 1st Panzer at +2/+2 from an aircraft. He's definitely going to use an armored unit here. So I could be at +4. Or I could throw in an infantry, and I would be at +5, and it'd be a one-time +5 to +2, do I take the hex die roll. If I go with just the Panzer, I have a +4 to +2 the first time, and possibly a +2 to a 0 the second time. Or if he uses his tanks up there, then maybe I have a better attack at Reserve. Decisions. Definitely going to activate the 1st Panzer. Just don't know if I'm going to make it go to an assault and try and just take this city. 2. Or should I just try and... I get 3 attacks if I do it mobile. So I'm going to try it as a mobile attack. So I start off at +2 is German, +2 for armor, -1 for the river, -1 for the city or the swamp, whatever you want to make it be, -4. The Russians start off at 0. We go to combat commitment. The Russians are, this is one of the places they were going to use tanks markers. So they're going to try and stuff the attack. And the Germans are going to, they can either use the plane at Rezev, or they can use it here. And part of me wants to save it for Rezev because that's more of a central location and threatens to punch a hole in the line that makes me get to Bulagoya. And I always can come back and do an assault up here later. Ah, boy. I'm going to take my chances. I'm not going to use the airplane there. I'm going to save it for Zev because I know he's going to use the tanks there. So let's see what happens. The Russians did commit. I did not. They put in their tanks marker because they have to commit something, and that's all they can. So they commit their tanks. It's +2 to +2. See what happens. The Germans rolled really good. They rolled an 8. And the Russians rolled almost as good. They rolled a 5. +2 is a 7. So they stopped them on the first try. That was 1, 2 for the 1 to move in the hex. to attack from. 1 for the river, 2 for the hex, and 1 for the guy. So that's a grand total of 5. So the Germans only have 5 movement points left, and it's going to cost them 4 to attack again. And this time they will be +2 to +0. Now comes the real challenge for the Russians. Do you commit the tank marker to hold the city and take your chances at Reserve? He still has an airplane left. So we go into commitment, and he could throw the airplane in this time to kind of guarantee that it gets through. And if I throw the tanks marker and he saves the airplane, then he goes to Reserve. And the Germans are thinking the same way. Do I throw it in this time and try and take the hex? Or do I throw it in at Reserve and try and take that central location? Think. And bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. They both commit. The Russians throw their tanks, and the Germans throw their aircraft. They'll make the big battle be there in the north, trying to unhinge him, push him back across the sphere or something. So I'm just going to put this tanks marker down here. Matter of fact, I'm just going to put the tanks marker on the turn track so I don't forget, because I always forget to do those things. So the Russians got an extra +2, and so did the Germans. So it's a +4 to a +2. So kind of a different animal this time. Germans roll 5 + 4 is a 9. The Russians roll 6 + 2 is an 8. Yes, they held the hex and used up some German assets on the way. So the Russians are happy. Germans are not happy. They really wanted to get those 2 will points for that city. That would have kind of put the Russians on their heels. What to do next? Not a real good choice left here. I've got 22 to spend. I think we're going to go ahead and spend. Let's go and do the risky one. Well, it's not really risky, but do the one that we can get away with. 2250 for the what Panzer are you? 4th Panzer. Activates, moves into 2250 to get out of zone's control so we can move into 2151. There's an assault on the 12th Army here. I'm not going to bother to put down assault markers. I'm going to resolve it right away. 4th's going to move in. 6th's going to move in. And the Russians don't have anything they can commit, and the Germans will commit their tanks marker here. Yes, they will throw in their tanks marker here. We're going to want to try and get one of these cities. Since they're calling an assault, they don't have any more attacks left. That was 4 production points that I have to take off. So 2 for the armor, 1 for each infantry, puts me down to 18. And then we just go through the motions. +2 for German. Russians start off at 0. +2 for German. The 4th has a tanks marker, so he's +2. And a +1 for my 6th Army further up. And I didn't do that right. Let's start this over. +2 for German 4th Panzer. +2 because it's armor. +2 because I have a guy with a tanks marker adding in, and +1 for the guy that doesn't have anything, but just an extra buddy. So that's +7, and then I'm -1 to go into a river, and -1 to go into the city. So I'm +5, and he's +0 because he used all of his stuff up to stuff me in the north and in the south. And the south kind of worked. North definitely did. So +5 to +0. And the Germans roll. A 4 +5 is a 9. I think I force him a retreat on a 9, don't I? Just checking that. Yes, even if he rolls a 6, he'll retreat. So it's just a matter of how bad is it. And he rolled a 6. So it's a good thing that I added in everything I could. A 9 to a 6 is a DR. So he will have to retreat. He will retreat to the only legal place he can go. 1951, it looks like. The airplane has to fly away. It's going to go ahead and fly away to Yaroslavl or someplace, whatever that is called. So go there. It's going to go to Kalinin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He has to move to get to Kalinin. So no, we're going to actually go into Kalinin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, he has to move an airplane up to be able to hit me. So I'm out of range of him, but in range of being able to add it into something. And we're going to go ahead and take it with the 4th rather than the Panzer. Because of... Come on. If I put the Panzer up there, he wouldn't have a retreat route. He could get halfway decent assault because he's got Shock Army that he could throw in. I really don't want to deal with that. So this, he can still probably get a fairly good assault, but it's the infantry has a retreat route, so I'm not too worried about it. German tanks go on the tank mark turn track, so they can't. Nothing I can do about that. And yeah, that's boy howdy. Now what do we do? Oh, the Russian will goes down by 2 because I took a city. So I've taken out 3 will points. No, I got 2 infantry. You started at 15, minus 2. Yeah, I've taken out 4 will. 4 will points on a turn is not bad. I see kind of a long shot. I'm going to go ahead and try and do it. First thing I'm going to do is activate the Romanians. Where are my Romanians? Or do I... Because I can't add any more. So it'd be 4, 5, 6, minus 2, plus 4, minus plus 2. It'd be a 4 to 2. I can go ahead and use the Romanians to do this. Yeah, I think I will. Romanians move to 2754, then 2755. Declare an assault on whatever this city is. Voronezh. The 10th activates as well. Let's move my will markers here. Where's my Romanians? Romanians move down 1. 10th Army. And then 2 for the 3rd Panzer. 1, 2, 3, and it will also assault this hex. Before I end up the assault, I'm going to do a couple of other moves. I definitely have to cover Tula, so the 17th is going to activate. Hello, 17th. 1, 2 across the river, 3, 4 into Tula. Do not want to twist on fate there. I'm not going to be able to get all my airplanes up again. Dag nabbit, I'm just so... Strategic warfare is actually hurting me because I can't do a lot. I'm really trying to get the Russians to collapse. So since I can't do that, I'll go ahead and move 2 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so I'm going to move the out. I have things in the north I need to get out of there too. So maybe I'll leave the 20th behind. I really don't want to. I'd love to break the Don, but I don't think I can at this point. Before I decide which 2 move units, let's see if we actually succeed at this. Might change my move, right? So I start with the Germans. Panzer is the primary. So he's +2 for German, +2 for Panzer. And then I get +1 for my Romanian buddy and +1 for my other guy, 10th Army. And then I am -1 for the river and -1 for the city. So I'm at +4. We go to combat commitment. I don't have anything to commit anymore. Of course, they're going to throw in their airplane. I will finish this combat and then... I'll finish this combat and then we'll break the video because my timer just went off. So the Russians get +2 from the airplane and I have +4 from just all my stuff. Trying to do an assault, see if we get away with it. Germans roll. A 1 +4. That's a 5. The Russians roll. 6 +2 is an 8. So a 5 to an 8 I think is just it's just an AS. No attacker. I was worried I might have lost a step someplace. So the Russians hold. Their airplane made the difference and they held Varennes, whatever. I'm going to break the video here. I'm Dren608. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to my videos so you don't miss any installments of the turns. Leave me comments as well. Always welcome good and bad comments. I need to know what you like, what you don't like. We'll be back with the second part of the German Axis turn, and we might even start the Western turn, depending on what the timer tells me I'm allowed to do. So we'll see you in just a little bit with the next part of this video, next part of this turn. Bye-bye.